You ever notice how weird money feels sometimes? Like, you check your bank account on a random Tuesday afternoon, and it's not terrible. But it's also not where you thought you'd be by now. You've been working, trying, maybe even saving a little here and there. But it still feels like you're just maintaining, not really moving forward. And then you open YouTube or Instagram and see those videos. Millionaire morning routine. Wake up at 5 a.m. and your life will change. Drink lemon water. Meditate. Read 50 pages. Cold shower. You're sitting there thinking, wait, is that really it? Because honestly, if becoming wealthy was just about waking up early and journaling, a lot more people would be rich. I've tried some of that stuff. Maybe you have to. You wake up early for a few days, feel productive for like 72 hours, and then life happens. You get tired. You slip back. And suddenly you're left wondering if the problem is your discipline, or if something deeper is just. Often, yeah. I spend way too much time thinking about this. Like why some people seem to slowly, almost quietly build wealth over time, while others people who work just as hard stay stuck in the same loop for years. It's not always obvious. It's not flashy. And it's definitely not what most success advice makes it seem like. Because here's the thing that took me a while to understand. Millionaire habits aren't what people think they are. And more importantly, most people are copying the wrong ones. Not because they're lazy. Not because they're incapable, but because they're focused on the visible habits instead of the invisible thinking patterns underneath them. So in this video, I want to walk through what actually separates people who build wealth from those who stay stuck, not in a motivational hype way, but in a real, practical, slightly uncomfortable kind of way, because once you see it, you kind of can't unsee it. Let's start with the biggest misunderstanding. When people think about millionaire habits, they think about behaviors. Wake up early, exercise, read books, stay organized, and look, those things aren't bad. They're actually helpful, but they're not the reason someone becomes wealthy. They're side effects. That's the part most people miss. It's like seeing someone with a six-pack and assuming the secret is the protein shake they drink after workouts, instead of the years of consistency behind it. The same thing happens with money. You see a successful person who reads daily, tracks their goals, wakes up early, and you think, okay, if I just copy that, I'll get the same results. That's like copying someone's handwriting and expecting to gain their knowledge. It doesn't work like that, because the real difference isn't what they do, it's how they think before they do it. For example, two people can read the same book. One reads it, feels inspired for a day, moves on. The other reads it and immediately asks, how can I apply one idea from this today? Same habit, completely different outcome, and that's where the gap begins. Why this matters? If you focus only on visible habits, you'll constantly feel like you're doing the right things but not getting results. Actionable takeaway. Instead of asking, what habits do millionaires have? Start asking, what mindset leads to those habits? That question changes everything. Here's something that sounds almost wrong at first. We've been told that working harder leads to more money, and to a point. That's true. But millionaire thinking shifts away from effort toward leverage, meaning they constantly ask, how can I get more output from the same input? Let me explain. Imagine two people. One works 10 hours a day, doing tasks that only they can do. The other spends time building systems, learning skills, or creating something that keeps working even when they're not at first. The first person might make more money, but over time, the second person pulls ahead because effort has a ceiling. Leverage doesn't. This could be investing, building a business, learning high-income skills, creating content, even networking with the right people. It's not about doing more. It's about doing things that multiply. And honestly, this is where a lot of people get stuck, because leverage feels slow at first. There's no immediate reward. You might work on something for months and see nothing, which is frustrating, but that's exactly why most people quit. right before it starts compounding. Why this matters if you only rely on effort. You'll always trade time for money, and time is limited. Actionable takeaway? Ask yourself, what am I doing right now that could still benefit me 6 months from now? If the answer is nothing, that's where to start. We've all heard about delayed gratification. Save instead of spend. Invest instead of splurged. And yeah, that's part of it. But the deeper version is, emotional, millionaire-type thinkers are okay with looking like they're not winning. Yet that's the uncomfortable part. Because we live in a world where everyone wants visible progress. New car, better phone, fancy lifestyle. It's tempting, and honestly, it feels good. But wealth building often looks boring. For a long time, it's saying no when everyone else is saying yes. It's investing when it doesn't feel exciting. It's sticking to a plan when there's no applause. And here's something I've noticed. People don't just struggle with delayed gratification. They struggle with invisible progress. If they can't see results quickly, they assume it's not working. But the reality. Most financial growth is quiet at the beginning, almost invisible, until suddenly, it's not. Why this matters? If you need constant visible proof, you'll quit too early. Actionable takeaway? Track progress differently. Not just money, but behaviors. Did I invest this month? Did I learn something valuable? Did I improve my system? Small wins compound, even if they don't look impressive yet. This one surprised me when I first realized it. We think successful people are constantly making big, smart decisions, but actually, they remove as many decisions as possible. Think about it. If every day you're deciding what to spend, what to eat, what to work on, what matters, you burn mental energy, and when you're mentally tired, you make worse decisions. So instead, they create systems. Automatic investing. Pre-planned routines. Clear priorities, not because they love structure, but because it reduces friction. It's like, imagine trying to save money when every purchase feels like a debate. Exhausting, right? But if you automate saving, no debate. It just happens. Why this matters? Your environment and systems shape your behavior. More than motivation ever will. Actionable takeaway. Remove one decision from your daily life. Automate it. Simplify it. Eliminate it. Less thinking. Better outcomes. Most people think risk means losing money. Millionaire thinkers see it differently. They see risk as staying in the same place too long, not learning new skills, not adapting, not trying, because over time, that becomes the bigger loss. It's kind of like, imagine avoiding all investments because you're afraid of losing money. Feels safe, right? But then inflation slowly erodes your savings. And suddenly, doing nothing becomes the risk. This shift is huge because it changes your behavior. You stop asking, what if this fails? And start asking, what happens if I don't try? And yeah, that's uncomfortable, but it opens doors. Why this matters? Avoiding risk doesn't protect you. Long-term, it often limits you. Actionable takeaway. Take small, calculated risks regularly. Not reckless ones, just consistent steps outside your comfort zone. This one's subtle, but powerful. Instead of chasing goals like, I want to make more money, they think, I'm the kind of person who builds wealth. And that sounds small, but it changes everything, because identity drives behavior. If you see yourself as someone who learns, invests, thinks long-term, you naturally act differently. You don't need constant motivation. It just becomes normal. Meanwhile, if your identity hasn't shifted, you'll always feel like you're trying to be better, instead of just being that person. Why this matters? Lasting change comes from identity, not willpower. Actionable takeaway. Ask yourself, what would someone who's financially successful do in this situation? Then do that, even if it feels unnatural at first. Let me bring this down to something really simple. Almost uncomfortably simple. Most people don't actually know where their money goes. Not exactly. They have a rough idea. Sure, rent, food, bills. Maybe some subscriptions floating around in the background, quietly draining money every month like that one app you forgot to cancel 3 years ago. But if you ask them, how much did you spend last month on things you didn't plan for? There's usually a pause, and that pause matters. It's more than people think. Because before wealth comes awareness, and awareness is not exciting. It's not a breakthrough moment. It's sitting down, looking at numbers and going, wait, I spent that much on this? And yeah, it can feel uncomfortable, sometimes even a little embarrassing. But here's the shift. People who build wealth don't avoid that feeling. They lean into it because awareness gives you control. Without it, you're just reacting. With it, you can actually decide. And I used to think this step was optional, like something beginners do. But honestly, it's foundational. It's like trying to get in shape without ever stepping on a scale or tracking anything. You're guessing, and guessing doesn't compound. Clarity does. Why this matters. You can't improve what you don't clearly see. Actionable takeaway. For the next 30 days, track everything. Not perfectly. Not obsessively, just honestly. Even rough awareness will change how you think about money. This one is a bit counterintuitive because we live in a time where opportunities feel endless. New side hustles, new trends, new ways to make money. Every week there's something new, and it creates this weird pressure to always be doing more, trying more things, starting more projects, jumping on more trends. But here's what I've noticed. People who actually build wealth don't chase everything. They ignore most of it. And that's hard, because ignoring something feels like missing out. What if this is the opportunity? What if this is the thing that works? But constantly switching directions has a cost. You reset your progress every time. You never stay long enough for anything to compound. It's like planting seeds in different places every week and wondering why nothing grows. Meanwhile, someone else picks one thing and sticks with it. Through the slow phase, through the boring phase, through the this might not work phase. And eventually, it does not because it was perfect, but because they stayed. Why this matters. Consistency in one direction often beats scattered effort in many. Actionable takeaway. Instead of asking, what should I try next? Ask, what am I already doing that I should keep going with? That shift alone can save you years. There's something nobody really tells you about building wealth. It's kind of boring. Not in a depressing way, just repetitive. And honestly, that's where most people fall off, because we've been trained to chase motivation. That feeling where everything clicks, you feel inspired, you're ready to change your life. You open a new tab, maybe start planning your new system, and for a few days, you're locked in. Then the feeling fades, and suddenly, everything you were excited about feels heavy. You don't feel like tracking expenses. You don't feel like learning. You don't feel like doing the thing that actually matters. And here's where the difference shows up. Most people interpret that drop in motivation as a signal to stop. But people who build wealth, they expect it. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on repetition, even when it's boring. Especially when it's boring. Because boring is where consistency lives. It's like going to the gym and doing the same exercises again and again. It's not exciting. There's no dramatic moment where everything changes overnight. But over time, something shifts, quietly, almost invisibly. And that's exactly how money works. Investing regularly, saving consistently, improving skills slowly. None of it feels exciting in the moment, but it compounds. And here's a small, kind of uncomfortable truth. If your plan only works when you feel motivated, it's not really a plan. It's a mood. Why this matters? Motivation is temporary. Systems and repetition are what actually create results. Actionable takeaway. Build a system so simple that you can follow it even on your worst days. Not your best days. Your worst ones. Because that's where consistency is tested. This one is subtle. And honestly, it's easy to ignore. But it's huge. A lot of people don't just want to be wealthy. They want to look wealthy. And those are two very different paths. Because looking wealthy is immediate. Nice clothes, new phone, upgraded lifestyle, spending in ways that signal success. And again, nothing wrong with enjoying your money, but when that becomes the priority, it starts working against you. Because real wealth often requires doing the opposite. At least for a while. It's delaying upgrades, keeping things longer than you could replace them, choosing investments over appearances. And yeah, that can feel uncomfortable. Because there's social pressure. You see people around you leveling up visually, and you start thinking, am I falling behind? Even when you're actually moving forward financially. That disconnect is tough. And I've noticed this in myself too, by the way. There's this weird moment where you realize you can afford something, but buying it doesn't actually make sense. And that moment feels strange. Because you're choosing long-term growth over short-term validation, which is not something most people do consistently. Why this matters? If your goal is to look successful, you'll often sacrifice actually becoming successful. Actionable takeaway. Before any non-essential purchase, pause and ask, am I buying this for my life or for how it looks? That one question can save you a lot more than money. So when you step back and look at all of this, it's kind of interesting, right? Because none of these habits are flashy. There's no secret trick. There's no perfect morning routine. No single breakthrough moment where everything suddenly changes. It's quieter than that. It's in how someone thinks when no one's watching. It's in the decisions that don't feel important at the time. It's in choosing consistency over excitement. Long-term over short-term. Reality over appearance. And yeah, I think that's why this whole topic is so misunderstood. Because we're naturally drawn to things that are visible. We notice the car, the house, the lifestyle, but we don't see the years of thinking differently that led there. We don't see the restraint, the patience, the small, repeated choices. And honestly, that's where the real shift happens. Not in doing something extreme for a week, but in slightly adjusting how you approach money every single day. And I get it, this isn't the most exciting message. It doesn't give you that instant rush of motivation. It's more like a quiet realization. The kind that sticks with you. The kind that makes you pause next time you're about to make a decision and think, wait, what actually matters here? And if you start asking that question more often, you'll start noticing something. Your decisions change. Then your habits change. And eventually, your results start to change too. Slowly, then all at once. So yeah, maybe millionaire habits aren't what you thought. But honestly, that's a good thing. Because it means you don't need some extreme routine or perfect discipline to move forward. You just need to start thinking a little differently and keep going. Even when it's quiet, even when it's boring, even when no one notices. Because that's usually the moment where things are actually working. You just can't see it yet.